Welcome to Happening Multicultural Festival 2022. Um, Before we go any further, I would like to take a few minutes for the land acknowledgement. I recognize that I live and work in traditional indigenous territories, and I acknowledge that I'm currently located on the traditional territory of Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. I wish to express gratitude to Mother Earth for the resources we are using, and I would like to honor all the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have been living on the land since the time immemorial. Happening Multicultural Festival is the first and only Toronto-based festival created by community artists, giving center stage to newcomer, immigrant, and refugee artists. During Happening Poetry Nights, we celebrate poets who, among other things, identify as newcomers, refugees, or immigrants. Every Thursday in May 2022, there will be a poetry event with three readings or performances, as well as one interview. Despite the fact that poetry inhabits many geographical locations and speaks in different languages and accents, literature continues to be the most exclusive of arts and the most resistant against outsiders. My name is Bänoo, and I'm the poet curator of the series. It is now my pleasure to introduce the poets for tonight. The first poet who's going to read for us is the Iraqi-Canadian author Hasan Namir, who graduated from Simon Fraser University with a BA in English and received Ying Chen Creative Student Award. He's the author of God in Pink, who won the Lambda Literary Award for Best Gay Fiction and was chosen as one of the top 100 books of introduced by CBC in 2015 and Globe and Mail. His work has also been featured on Huffington Post, Shaw TV, Airbnb, the film God in Pink, a documentary, Breakfast Television Toronto, and CTV Morning Live Saskatoon. He was recently named a writer to watch by CBC Books. He's also the author of poetry collection War Torn, children's book The Name I Call Myself, and Umbilical Cord. Hasan was the 2021 LGBTQ2 Spirited Plus guest curator for World Vancouver. He lives on the unceded territories of the Kwantlen, Katsi, Semyamu, and Sawasan First Nations with his husband and their child.
Hi, my name is Hasan Namir, and first I just wanted to say thank you so much, Bänoo, for inviting me to read as part of the Happening Multicultural 2022. Thank you so much to Muse Arts for making space for us. I'm very happy and excited to be part of this. I'm going to be reading from my poetry book, Umbilical Cord. This was published by Book Hug Press, came out last year in September. It's my second poetry book with them. My very first one was War Torn, and that came out in 2019. Umbilical Cord is a love story. It's my love letter to my husband Tarn, my love letter to our son Malik, and my love and appreciation to my sister-in-law Kieran, who had offered to be our surrogate. So the book essentially chronicles like my love story with Tarn, how we met, our engagement, and then eventually our wedding. And then after that, when we wanted to become parents, and how my amazing sister-in-law Kieran did that for us, and we went through the IVF and surrogacy. So essentially, this book is essentially it's just love in different forms and different ways. It's about fatherhood, it's about parenthood, and I hope that this book sort of opens the door for queer families, and that our stories are being told, and that we are not being erased, and that we exist, and we're a family just like any other family, all about love, and we're raising our son with love. So I'm going to be reading some poems from that book, Umbilical Cord. The first one is called Daycare. Time is a fleeting space between us. Months pass like seconds, feeling separated, tears dwelling. I write this poem as a parent, anxieties overflowing me. I miss you when you're learning. I'm writing this poem when time is perpetual. Our emotions are cyclical. I wrote this poem outside, my heart a seesaw of emotions, until I saw your smile outside. Dear child, after I married your dad, some people didn't believe in our family. We faced a lot of hate. We kept each other strong. You are keeping us stronger. Industrial scissors. It took years to heal. I tried to walk down the forest, full of prickles, impossible to move forward. The choice was in my hands. I had to pave the way. I glanced behind and saw a tarn, industrial scissors in hand. Together we cut through the prickles. Our way became clear. I threw the pills in the garbage. I never looked back. I found myself. So a part of my life just before we wanted to become parents, I was going through situational depression, especially after my family, we sort of like especially like my parents and some of my other family, we had some issues, especially because of my sexuality, and I was struggling to sort of like heal. I was struggling to reconcile between my identities, and I was going through some depression. So my husband Tarn saved me in a lot of ways, and I overcame it eventually, and after that, that's when we decided to become family, and family gave me this happiness, this inner peace, and yeah, I'm just so grateful for everything for sure. Formula milk. Some babies are breastfed like I was. Others are formula milk fed like Tarn. Some say that breast milk is better for babies. Sometimes that's not an option. Our baby is formula milk fed. Positioning Malik upright, supporting his neck and back with one hand, the other hand holding the bottle. Malik's lips latch on the bottle's nipple. He starts to drink. He stops as I angle the bottle. He needs breaks in between his feet. I have him stay upright as I burp him, gently rubbing his back. First attempt, second attempt, then a loud burp. We're both happy. Dear child, no threat or fear can come in between us. We are one strong family that will fight ignorance. You intertwined us at one. You are the bridge that brought us all together. You are the key to our eternal happiness. So when my son was born, he was born 6 weeks early. So we spent 2 weeks in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care. So I wrote some poems of that experience. So the first one is neonatal intensive care, day one. Fears and doubts trigger us. Our inner voices questioning our baby's health. 3 pounds and a half. Will he be okay? We ask that question endless times. Are you afraid? I just want him to be okay. The umbilical cord was sentimental, attached our hearts to Malik. I felt like he was living inside of me since the day Kieran was pregnant. I didn't have to carry him or give birth to have those feelings. It's normal to worry. Should I be worrying all the time? He's going to be fine. Neonatal intensive care, day 2. Every night before I could even shut my eyes, I recited Quranic verses that always began like this: In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. My mother hadn't stopped praying. Your mother would pray every night too. Why are you afraid? It's our son. God is great. The nurses were like teachers. They taught us everything. It's a blessing in disguise. Thank God, always. Dear child, you have such a strong grip. Your hand attached to my finger. You reassure us everything will be okay. You empower us. You are a blood vessel of strength. Neonatal intensive care, discharge day. November 9, 2019. 9 is the number that saved me. The nurse was happy for us. We get to take our Malik home. Are you excited or nervous? I'm grateful. Dear child, I admire how you fought through it all. I appreciate that you are a soldier. I traveled down memory lane, looking for the courage only to find it within you. Tummy time. We learned each day to lay you on your stomach, a minute more added daily, lying down on the floor, crying uncomfortably new. A reflex in the works, you are exploring new territories. There is discomfort and pain. Those tears, a minute added each day, less crying. Don't be afraid, you're a fighter. These were the longest minutes for both of us. I know this is for your best, Habibi. Don't cry, my angel. It's tummy time. Dear child, I lost count how many times I kissed your head. Your babbling words, Dad and Baba. I said I love you. You said I love you. Dear child, when I looked through your eyes, I saw myself in my father's arms. Your grandfather saw me in you. You are the bridge that connects us. I hope I can see him someday too. So part of this book also we have some family photos that I included throughout. So it gives that idea that it's like a family book. I sort of wanted not only to bring you into our life through poems, but also through our family photos. So I'm just going to show it one more time. Feeding. Feeding you, Maluki, as you hold my finger with your hand, is the greatest feeling I feel every day. In one hand, I'm holding a blue bowl of wheat biscuit cereal, mixed with formula milk. In my other hand, I'm holding a machine, blue spoon. You are sitting in your high chair. Your smile elevates mine. I take a scoop of the oatmeal and feed it to you. Your eyes light up like diamonds as you chew the food. I cannot explain that feeling because it's greater than what I could put into words. Ever since Daddy Tarnushi went back to work, Maluki, you've been my best friend and my sunshine, even though we miss Daddy very much. I thank God every day that I get to take care of you and hold you in my arms, forever inshallah wahiguru. I love you and your daddy more than anything. May God protect you and bless you always, our angel. XO, love, Baba Hasan. Dear child, you are a hopeful message. You are the messenger of love. The year blinks in an eye. I'm still in this dream. Am I allowed to pause? And I'm going to read 2 more poems. This one is called I Am a Mother. When I was young, I wanted to be a girl. I liked playing with Barbie dolls. I love belly dancing. I love imitating divas. I had baby Barbies. I knew I wanted to be a mother. Yet I'm a man with motherly feelings. I moved on with those feelings. I had to be a man and marry a woman. I could only be a father, not a mother. I didn't have breasts, I had empty nipples. I realized I didn't have to wear a dress to be a mother. It's not an appearance, it's a feeling. I've always been the one worrying about everyone. I could be a man who loves another man. When daddy's at work, I am drawn to you the way the umbilical cord is a feeling. I am a mother. And lastly, I'm going to read the title poem, Umbilical Cord. This is the thread of life, a lifetime commitment. My ancestors and genes in milky white. Your dad's legacy in an egg. XYYX, 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 XYYX. Please attach. Sleepless nights, interfaith prayers like from mum and mama. Surrogate couldn't wait to tell us the news. She secretly took the pregnancy test. I was speechless. I felt the umbilical cord grafting to my flesh. I felt your heartbeat long before the ultrasound. Tender particles of roses folded on our heads. The gentle reveal ceremony made me wonder. My heart knew I wanted you, Malik, but you could have been Malika. There were fears and doubts intervening aggressively. We were thankful for you, regardless of your sex. The confetti was blue, the umbilical cord that kept us floating on the king's throne. You were ready for us as long as we were ready for you. Inside the womb, you were growing, becoming both of us. The umbilical cord is thousands of years of intersectionality, rooting in the Euphrates and Singapore rivers. As the water waves to the Pacific Ocean, your dad and I stood on the bridge waiting for you. I met him on April 9, 2011, when I saw you waiting for us. You didn't want to wait anymore. 32 weeks, 4 days, 6 weeks early. You just wanted to be with your dad and Baba. This was your umbilical cord. Baba and Dad cut through it. The string which life flowed through. Blood vessels pumped through your heart. Your cry was so soft, yet loud enough to announce arrival. You have my eyes, and your dad's ears, and nose. You have my forehead, and your dad's light hair. You are us, and we are you in every single way possible. Dear child, this book is a letter of hope, like the umbilical cord that kept us dreaming. Someday, the three of us will stand together on the bridge. We will watch our rivers converge with the ocean. Thank you so much.
In this section, I'm interviewing Lillian Allen. Lillian Allen is a professor of creative writing at the Daycare University. She's a two-time Juno Award winner and trailblazer in the field of spoken word and dub poetry. Her books include Rhythm and Hard Times, a Canadian bestseller. She also has other books, Women Do This Every Day and Psychic Unrest. She has worked for young people, including 3 books, Why Me, If You See Truth, and Nothing But a Hero. She co-produced and co-directed Black We Black, a film documentary on Jamaican dub poet Muta Baruka, which was premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. Welcome to Happening Multicultural Festival 2022 Poetry Interviews. I can't tell you how thrilled I am that we have Lillian Allen with us today, a legend and a phenomenal person in the poetry world in Canada and beyond. Welcome, Lillian.
Hey, thank you, Bänoo. That's so great. I haven't seen him in so long. It's such a joy to see you in the digital. Yeah.
Exactly. Me too. This pandemic has been really difficult to handle, has
Very.
separated people a lot, but at least the
Yeah.
technology is bringing us together.
Yeah, we can say that in a certain kind of way.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Lillian, I'm just so excited because your journey has so many lessons to learn from. Um, um, Happening Multicultural Festival basically wants to highlight the voices and the presence of newcomer, refugee, and immigrant artists.
Right.
And with that in mind, I would like you to ask you to just start by telling us about your
My journey, you're cutting out a bit.
summarize it
I
because
think it might be
there's so much.
no, yeah, I think it might be I'm not sure I don't think it's my internet. It might be, but this is the other thing with the technology. We're not the boss of it, and we have to learn to live with it, and it does what it wants, right? So yeah, so I was a writer from I can remember, as far back as I can remember. Um, totally, I was captivated by story and language. I excelled in school, in literature, which is a British literature that we had to study because I grew up in Jamaica, which was a British colony. Um, so I had writing in my heart and something that I did. I didn't quite see where it could be a profession. And I mean, even now, it's part of something, how what people do or how they live their lives. But way back then, but I knew it was something. It was a companion. It was something I would have forever. It was almost like my fifth column, so to speak. Well, no, not a good military image to use in this moment, but it was this other channel that took me away, more like a spiritual space, so that I could do my own reasoning and my own processing of what was reality, what I understood and what I wanted, and what I could fabricate in language. So when I first came to Canada, just a wee little kid out of high school, I, of course, kept writing because it was my companion, but not thinking I was going to do anything with it. I got involved in community radio, which was fantastic. So I was around artists in Kitchener-Waterloo for a while there. And then I went away to study, and then made the trip back to Jamaica, then came back to Toronto. But in Kitchener-Waterloo, there was something that happened that really alters the imagination of a creative person or a writer. And, when you go on vacation and you don't know about a place and you figure stuff, you've read it up, but being there is just something else. You're in a different plane. So in Canada, I had nothing to measure it against. When I was growing up, there was very little TV and so on. You see people coming back from North America, your family write to you, and tell you how it is. So when you land, and everything is so different. The only analogy that you could use is like Mars, because you haven't been to Mars and you don't know it, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
That's the same feeling.
This must be like Mars, right? So yeah. So it puts you in that category where you're distinctly different, and that you had to hold on to yourself, or else you were gonna float away, merge into, or somebody's going to push you in a corner, or a variety of other things. So my writing kept me going. And then when I started to share it, a lot of walls fell down. People loved it. They responded to it. I was basically writing about the things I was seeing and feeling, and you know, people just like that. And so it became more important to me, and it gave me this personality, this other part of me. It helped me define a new me. So my writing had nothing to do with industry and publishing and prizes, or none of that. I didn't know about any of that, and frankly, you know, definitely was not on my radar. And you know, finding a writing community was hard though. When I was away in the States for a while, I found somewhat of a community. I went to NYCC, did some courses. I went to NYU, did some writing courses. But the most vibrant thing was what was happening in the park, because you're talking about the early 70s. And it was mostly counterculture folks and Black folks who were expressing themselves and calling the system to account, sharing love and all of that. So, you know, there was my spiritual home right there. So I dragged my little self after whatever daily labor I had to do or schoolwork and find where those things were, whether they were in the village or Central Park or Lafayette Park or Flatbush. And I would just go and I would just groove on it. So that's some of my early formative years. Then when I came back to Canada, and you know, it's a little bit of a trip there because I went to Jamaica, I got involved. I was more deliberate, and there's a dub poetry scene there. And the arts is flourishing. So I got involved with some people from my town and people I grew up with. And actually, Audrey-Zina Mandela came by a few times. It's so amazing how 6 degrees of separation. And, you know, I just knew that writing was never going to leave me, and I wasn't going to leave it. And so when I came back to Canada, I started to try and find a place for it. And of course, it's for the community. So I became involved in community organizations, which is something I do when I go somewhere new, even when I visit for a short time. I find out where people hang out, where the immigrants are, where the women are, where the queer folks are, just where ordinary people who just want to express themselves and hang out. And that's where I go and hang out. So I hung out in the community, and in the community, there's a lot of organizing, a lot of fight against racism, which, you know, you couldn't escape if you were Black or brown in Toronto. And so when I started sharing my work, it was like a hallelujah. People loved it.
And who cannot love it? Anyone who has heard you. By the way, if you are watching this interview, please go to some of Lillian Allen's performances wherever she has a public appearance, because, you know, you after hearing Lillian is going to be different from you before that, you know. This is such a, like, you know, even before I invited you to Shab Share, and that was a very long time ago, and I was a new immigrant, I had just looked up the video performances of you on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want to find her and bring her to Shab Share, you know. that was that was just an amazing moment for me, and anybody who loves language and anybody who loves poetry and writing definitely needs to know Lillian Allen. So
What a great compliment. Yeah, it's that embodiment, it's that just being with yourself and letting it be, right? So yeah. So just trying to find my way where the community is, right? And a lot of people reached out to me. A lot of people kind of, owned me in terms of being, brothers and sisters, the labor movement, the feminist movement. Totally, I was in the Black community. And yeah, it was really gave me a chance to be responsive to what was important to me. This resisting injustice and this search for community and collaboration and equality. And yeah, and all the
Lillian,
while.
wow, like I had a lot of questions to ask you, but I guess you're already answering them. Like how to be in a different country as an immigrant. You're just giving us examples. I only want to ask you one other question, at least at this point, and that is um, a lot of immigrants and newcomers and refugees are from, let's say, non-English speaking backgrounds.
Right.
So, do you have any suggestions? I don't know, any advice, any tips for these group of immigrants who, on top of other issues that we might face, like racism, misogyny, and everything else, we also have to deal with language barrier.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the unfortunate things about this country. I have a student, for example, over the years, I've had many students who can write and speak 3 and 4 languages, and they're stumbling on the English language and they're embarrassed and feeling dumb. And I'm like, oh my golly, how many people in this class can speak more than one language? And, maybe 2 hands would go up. And there is somebody who could speak 3, 4 languages feeling like they're dumber than the rest. So that's some of the problems. To me, real multiculturalism, and I don't know if we still want to frame it that way, it would be about people bringing everything to the table. It would be, and us learning to be with it. Yes, there's the language of commerce and English and so on, which people want to learn and they'll learn it too, but their own languages should be very important. And there should be ways that they can bring some of that into uniting, their both realities, immigrant reality, the back home reality, the here and now reality, and even into the future. So what we did when we came, when I was in Toronto in the mid-70s, every Sunday, a bunch of us would meet up. Shabazz, I don't know where he is now, Clifton Joseph, and a few other people. And we would read poetry, we'd write poetry, and we'd talk about poetry because we loved it. And so we were able to keep our vernacular language because we all were going to school and, you had to, fit in, so to speak, right? The kind of language in vernacular or the mixture of English and other languages is seen as broken English, not as a hybrid or anything like that. So you can write your essay like that or anything, or if you made any of those mistakes or, So we basically had this kind of watering hole that nurtured us. And that was so important. Just that confidence to stand in who you are alone would help you to learn another language and be confident in another language. So to take away people's language and not give them the opportunity to be able to use it, not just at home, but to demonstrate it in other places in the arts, in cultural spaces is really a disservice. I think it's a loss to us. So yeah.
Yeah, I see what, I mean, I agree with you. And a lot of times also in translations, I try to bridge the gap.
Mhm.
Now, how would you, Lillian, describe right now? Of course, the scene has moved a lot with
Yeah.
people contributing to it, trying to shape it. How would you describe the poetry and literary scene to a newcomer, a refugee, or an
Yeah.
immigrant who is interested in writing poetry or other forms of writing?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the scene is 100 times better than it was when I started out, right? So people should know that. There's so many more, collaborations, reading series. There's so a wider acceptance of poetry, of writing. Um, so I would say there's an opportunity to connect. People, it's one of those things where people have to go out. They have to go and figure out what's going on. And, if you love art, you're going to go to the galleries. You just don't want to do your own art and look at it and get other people to look at it. You want to see other people's art, right? You want to
Exactly.
support them. So it's the same with writing. So I would say folks should start the networking. It's really important. And, there are just some great series. Yours is one, the most diverse reading series anywhere. I haven't seen a more diverse one in the entire world, right? Just come, volunteer. You'd have to come and want to read right away. You'll get the bug, you'll get your chance to read. And then when you network, you'll figure out how to navigate the terrain. But the one thing I would say, never stop writing. Even if you can't see a future yet, or you don't know where it's going or what's going on, I would say keep writing, keep networking, keep learning your craft, keep reading and supporting other people. And then you're going to find your footing. You might even yourself start a reading series, for the newcomer, right? Because that's how many of us started out. It was lacking what we needed. There was not a lot of support for dub poetry, and I started Dub Poetry Collective and did an international dub poetry festival, right?
Awesome.
So yeah, so those are some of the things, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have done so much, and getting your perspective on these issues is so valuable. Like I'm sure that people who are listening are going to be really walking away with advice that can change their life, right? In as writers, as
Yeah,
poets, as artists.
yeah.
Um, um, yeah, I mean, this is really valuable. Um, now I wonder if you have any questions for me at this point, because
Well,
I am running out of questions
yeah,
for you.
yeah. Well, I was interested in the series itself. I was very intrigued by it. When you're a kind of minority, so to speak, you're always an immigrant, you're immigranted, right? So there's not a lot between, a new immigrant and an older immigrant or a minority, right? It's in the mix, and the way that you're viewed by dominant society is marginalized. You're marginalized. So that the kind of onboarding that you're conscious of we need to be more conscious of that everywhere. In schools, we have this country, we bring people, or people have to come because of whatever global forces, or they follow the money from the resources from their countries, or they come for adventure, they come for knowledge, or they whatever they come for. And we don't have a place for them. It's like you have a guest coming into your house, and they come and they have their suitcase, and they're standing at the door, and they're like, where should I put the suitcase? And you're like, oh, maybe in the closet there. And say, well, where am I going to sleep tonight? Oh, maybe on the couch. You don't have a room for me? So this is the experience of the immigrant coming to Canada. It's like you're showing up unexpected. And I think that needs to change, not just in the broader sense, but in the way that we operate our organizations, our universities, our schools. We should, Toronto had a saying that said, we were expecting you. We've got to expect the people who are coming, and we have to prepare for them, and make them welcome, and prepare a place for them so they can, be centered, and be able to contribute and connect from a position of safety and strength and security. They shouldn't have to be worrying and struggling. It proves nothing. It's just pain. It just add to human misery. We know they're coming, line up the job, figure out manpower, woman power market. So they come in, everything is ready. Let them be, So,
I mean, job market is definitely not aligned with the immigration policy. and what is worse, it's that even, the arts community is not prepared to receive other perspectives or viewpoints as either by the immigrants, especially the wave of immigrants that are showing up from non-English or French speaking backgrounds have the additional challenge that the scene is so sort of sometimes hostile that one wrong word can ban you forever from from any kind of
no, that is a problem, that it's not more open and enthusiastic and more kind of making space. You're right about that. And you don't know. I mean, Clyde Kellogg talked about it's like being in a room and you're looking outside and you see people, but you don't know where the doors or the windows are. Somebody need to show you or teach you, right? So you can get outside, enjoy the sunshine in the garden, right? So
it looks like I guess literary scenes everywhere in the world are elitist, usually classist, usually male dominated, run by people with a lot of advantage or privilege, who want to deliberately keep other people out,
or at least protect their exclusivity and the resources that's usually available. They don't want to share it too, right? Or the limelight. And
sometimes I feel that it's another thing too. Sometimes I feel people don't know how to treat newcomers, so they try to just be silent around us because they don't know how to welcome us. They think that they might offend us, and maybe branded as culturally insensitive or other things. But silence actually does the opposite. Distance makes you feel lonelier.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my poem, I Fight Back, as a line, you know, why did you leave there? Why on earth did you come? Same reasons that you came or your mothers came, we all came except the indigenous people. And not
Exactly.
even to mention the treatment of indigenous people over the centuries. Um, just horrific. So the whole decolonizing process, has to be a far-reaching, embracing one with indigeneity at the center, as far as I'm concerned. And then, that anti-racism, other tenets of decolonization kind of happening. I think that's the kind of society we want to build. I want to build.
Yes, me too. And we are working. You have done an amazing job of um, shaping the scene, basically, um, um, not being silent, not
Yeah.
accepting it, trying to change it. You have been a great role model and still are, and a great source of inspiration.
Uh,
So I'm really honored that you accepted to be with us today. Thank you so very much.
well,
I'm
thank
so
you.
grateful.
Well, thank you. I'm in my, COVID kind of isolationist kind of way. And I'm so happy to connect with you. You're one of my favorite poets, certainly my favorite organizer and supporter of young and diverse literary artists. And yeah, always happy to connect and be out there in the world. Thank
Thank you so much.
you.
Enjoy. We continue tonight's show with a performance by Irene Marques. Irene Marques is a bilingual writer, writing in English and Portuguese, and a lecturer at Ryerson University. She holds a PhD in comparative literature and a Bachelor of Social Work from Ryerson University. Her creative writing publications include the poetry collections Wearing Glasses of Water, The Perfect Unraveling of the Spirit, and The Circular Incantation, an exercise in loss and findings. And as well as the novels, My House is a Mansion, Uma Casa no Mundo, and Daria. Uma Casa no Mundo, published by Imprensa Nacional in Portugal in 2021, won the Imprensa Nacional Ferreira de Castro Prize.
My name is Irene Marques, and I'm going to read a few poems for you. The first few poems are from a collection put out by the University of Massachusetts Press in 2019. The title of the collection is Luso-American Literatures and Cultures Today. The title of the first poem is The Kitchen. The kitchen where she stands is bound to nothingness. In the middle, there is a table, the bread and the olive oil, and on special days, a note of rosemary, singing its perfume amidst the stale air of condiments, suspending the hard labor that the mistress of the house endures. If I stare at the table long enough, I see all the people she has fed over the centuries in aprons of collars entangled in grease spots, all markers of life. Days and nights come and still your place remains. That same corner is your corner. Dreams, you say. Dreams are made of incense smells that I conjure up in the small corner where I live. Dreams are built from inside out. Perhaps she's right, and I'm only intruding in her perfection. The next poem from this collection is titled The Gemini in Me. I'm a Gemini, full of selves. Well, two selves at least, my father and my mother. From my father, I possess a poetic undertone. I inherit his love for proverbs, those wise words told to him by his father, who heard it from his grandmother in a line that never ends. Words and words traveling down from the very beginning, when humans started to think about how to express their love for one another through clean syllables, likely because they felt lonely and the other was the way to the self. He, my father, also gave me another genetic inheritance, the capacity to feel very deeply the earth in my bones, the astonished and vibrant power of the spring, the warm darkness of the winter, and the middle feelings of the other two seasons, each entering every fiber of my body so that I can fully feel like a being of this land. My mother is another story. Mama of 10 children, she had to think complicated thoughts to explain the complication that her life came to be. The dialectics of her oppression got enmeshed in the Hegelian twisted philosophical ideology of the one who slaves and the one who masters, and all the ensuing confrontations that arise from such disagreeable dichotomies. She passed this inheritance to me, making me more intellectual than I wish to be. For in being more intellectual, I lose my natural ways of life. To love just because one loves. To be just because one is fundamentally a being who fundamentally is. I wish I could only follow my father's inheritance and feel like a true daughter of this earth. Speak that laughter that emerged at the beginning as a way to tell the other the love we feel. This does not mean that I can renounce my mother. I cannot, for I am truly her daughter. The next poem is titled Notions of God. There are truly beautiful people in the world, and when they are truly beautiful, they remind you of God. They are God. And then you want to go on living in this world forever. She dreamed of a Pegasus, a sturdy, gentle white horse with wings that would cross her from here to the end of the world, that would dance her into a round, interminable whirl where she could finally be whole, nothing missing, accompanied by all. Feel the exact point. That would be her voyage to God. That would be God. Between the point of her chest, where purple gulfs of life are executed impeccably by jinn from regions in superior Abyssinia, and the lower back of her spine, where marrow meets bone, she could spend whole days immersed into things, true, full things, and feel as if all there ever was or would be had joined her for a session of precise collective understanding. Between those points and in those correct days, she sworn in frank and sincere faith that her meeting had been with God. Sometimes the valleys and the hills merged, and she could only know the world through encrypted notes, sounds that only people who don't speak any language know to be of very high value. It happened on special days when she crossed the chasms of time without the thick sheet separating all the geometric figures that mark up the world, when she meandered between hopes and the ropes of minimal possibility, laying down her body full on the earth. It was a darling, pleasant game brought about by the deep nobility that drove her ontological desire, that inescapable fever always boiling in her blood, the red chrism lust for the voice that never left her, incessantly calling her to enter a better house, that coveted sleep into the dome of darkness or the castle of blind insight, depending on the alphabet you choose to name your prophet. Now I'm going to read a poem from one of my collections, The Perfect Unraveling of the Spirit, published by Malhenzi House. And the title of this poem is The Curious Book. There is a curious book on the shelf that is unlike the others. I can tell by the spine that is wearing out its wings, as though the book itself contains not enough knowledge and is reaching out to others to pick at their lines in an attempt to decipher the mysteries of the world, which are many, ancient, and so profound. The other books, as though jealous of the God they know, like mean-spirited, insecure priests, do not freely open themselves to this curious thing, but hold themselves tightly together, become closer to neighbors on the same shelf. Those not so eager to reach the bottomless pit that is our universe. I sit on my old sofa, which is also wretched by its own condition, and I watch this spectacle in silence, savoring the ways of the curious book and the manner in which its brothers and sisters lie in their sleep, satisfied with their self-contained knowledge, like premature dead children, or perhaps cynical elders who have learned that curiosity can kill. And it is in this reminiscing that I remember my father Adelino, recall how happy he was, just knowing his cows, using their dung to seal off the oven in which we baked corn bread that exhaled the sublime scent of the mountains where the cows had gone grazing only the day before. I recall his shiny eyes and how he said that happiness and good living can be found in the most unlikely places, and fools are those who keep going in circles and circles, trying to unveil what must remain closed from the eye of reason. Primal dogs who cannot stop trying to catch their own tails, even when they grow old. The last poem I'm going to read is a short poem from my collection of poems, Wearing Glasses of Water, also published by Malhenzi House. And it's titled The Virgin Hen. I am Lydia. I come to bring you soup. In your illness, chicken broth soup made from a virgin hen who slept beside us last Sunday when we made love, when you were still healthy in your skin, in your earth, in your pelvic bone, which I caressed, which you opened to me so that I could peek through and envisage the road that might lead ahead. Somewhere, someplace, some wet mucous membrane, from within and from without, the borders of your body. Last Sunday, when we felt the fecundity of a caress, I am Lydia, and I come to bring you soup. Thank you.
Our last but not least performer is Kama la Mackerel. Named after the god of love, Kama la Mackerel is a multilingual writer, visual artist, performer, translator, and educator who believes in love, compassion, and justice. Their work ventures beyond the borders of disciplinarity and creates hybrid spaces from which to enunciate decolonial and queer vocabularies. Wholeheartedly invested in ocean narratives, island sovereignty, transgender poetics, and ancestral healing, their body of work challenges colonial notions of time and space as these relate to history, power, language, subject formation, and the body. You could follow them by looking at their website, lamackerel.net.
Greetings, my name is Kamala Mackerel. I am a Mauritian-Canadian multidisciplinary artist and poet, and today I'm going to be reading a piece for you from my debut poetry collection called Zomfam, published by Metonymy Press. Zomfam is a Mauritian Creole term that means man, woman, or transgender. This is the piece called Your Body is the Ocean. Toliko, c'est la case. Toliko, c'est Enzil. Toliko, c'est la case. Toliko, c'est l'océan. Take a deep breath. Expand your timid lungs as wide as you can. Breathe in the salty air of the island, the humidity of Cure-Pipe, the musky fumes of Saint-Julien. Satiate your chest with the gentleness of moss, the golden chime of hopes. Inflate them like red, blue, yellow, green balloons rising to the sky quand joue l'indépendance. Extend this breath to the deepest chambers in your body, unknown spaces where there's stories written that you are yet to discover, like the unsent letters you wrote wrapped in tender green fabric and coconut rope, hidden under the pile of clothes in your closet. Breathe deep and breathe out. Breathe out. Breathe out the amber of life. Breathe out the flame of resilience. Breathe out the heat of forbearance. Breathe out the swell of light that will guide you through nights dark and endless like the Kala Pani. You are the child of survivance. Your skin will spread and rise, stretched out vertically like a sculpture, a monument demanding to exist, to be recognized, to occupy space. Your bones will mold themselves in a chrysalis of fortitude, collecting strength from the compost of the earth, learning not to rust, not to crumble, not to break under the wilting weight of adulthood. Your hair will sprout and grow in length, in strength, in pride, in thickness. Curls like dark snakes in an occult dream will bounce and twirl like a proud prophecy, proclaiming august visions of the past and the future to the winds. Put a hand to your chest. Listen to the cadence in your ribcage running wild and feverish like horses stomping across the Champ de Mars. Feel the swelling of life under your skin, the ripple of blood flowing, salt water lapping along the coastlines of your body. Voices refusing to be silent, songs refusing to disappear, screams demanding their oscillation be heard in the ripples of the ocean. There will be pain, deep pain, that will settle like sediment in your marrow, that will calcify like sandstone in your throat, that will fossilize like mud on your tongue. You will find ways to truncate your roots from memory, to escape yourself and others, catching planes and trains, hiding in the safety of metal boxes, stretching the distance between you and your home, you and your island, you and your body, you and your pain. No matter the borders, fences, walls, masses of lands, bodies of water that you put between you and your home, you and your island, you and your body, you and your pain. The pain is something that you just can't leave behind. You will drag its festering weight halfway across the globe in a heavy, invisible suitcase. Grief, the size of your ribcage, heartache, the length of your spine, a burden that you just can't leave behind. The worst thing that could happen to you will happen to you. And the best thing that could happen to you will also happen to you. So make friends with your bones, soak them overnight in coconut oil, wrap them in banana leaves and polish them under the moonlight. Rub salt inside of your pores, encrust the cracks in your skin, your scars and imperfections, dried fruit crystallized on a copper platter yielded to Surya for preservation. Offer your earthy armor to the open skies. Let the burn of salt purify your pain, the rawness of tears purge your wounds, the churn of waves cleanse your island body. Dig mountains with the edges of your hip bones. Sculpt temples from the softness of your lips. Make homes for the sacredness of your stories. Your body is home. Your body is an island. Your body is home. Your body is the ocean. You are the child of lineages, of ceremonial femmes who dreamt you up, reshaped the universe so they could give birth to you. A promise, a celebration, an offering, a pact, an almond, an earthen lamp on your ancestors' altar, molten lava exploding in the belly of a volcano, roaring fire at sunset, echoes of Ravane, Maravane triant, craquement du bois qui a pu brûler, la fumée qui peut monter là-haut, côte noiraude, nous bandes ancêtres, côte noiraude, nous bandes histoires, bandes grands du monde qui tirent fils, disparaître, bandes hommes-femmes qui ne continuent vivre dans nous les quais, qui continuent vivre dans nous la veine. There are languages you do not yet speak, words you do not yet know, music you have never heard, magic you have never felt, but you will learn that they have been with you, within you all this time, which is why I am here to tell you, child, You will not learn to love yourself, but I am learning to love you. This was Your Body is the Ocean from Zum Fam, my poetry collection, published with Metonymy Press. Thank you.
This brings us to the end of tonight's show. Huge thanks to our poets, to the festival team, Paula Gomez, Paula Sofia Morales, Natalia Rus, Alex Oscuyano, and all the other volunteers working hard behind the scenes. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night.